Friday, the final day of the week. These are the voyages of the program Unsportsmanlike Conduct. Its ongoing mission to explore strange new movies, to seek out new bits and new edifications, to boldly go where no radio program has gone before. Elkent's Movie Club. It's Elkent's Movie Club. Elkent's Movie Club. It's Elkent's Movie Club.
It's one of the few TV shows where I would watch the end credits because I've always loved the Star Trek theme, especially once you get into the I don't know. I always enjoyed it. Hi, Kent.
Hello.
We are reviewing another Stib selection. I got to remember. I'm thinking of ending things, which is streaming on Netflix. Normally, Stibs, you've missed us the last 2 weeks.
I have, yeah.
Well, can I make my joke first?
Yes, you
Please.
can.
I'm thinking of ending things. Also, what John was saying to himself as he was watching, I'm thinking of ending things.
I'm reserving judgment. I'm not saying a thing. Stibs, lead us into this. What is this movie about?
Tell us what this movie was about.
Bastard.
Spoiler alert, by the way.
Have
Whatever that means.
no idea. And I'm not mad about it. Like, I'm somebody who still enjoyed it, even though the entire time I was just utterly confused. I had enough enjoyment out of the acting, based to try and give our listeners somewhat of a baseline of what was going on in this movie. It starts off with a young woman, which is actually what the actress is credited as. She doesn't have an actual character name. She is a young woman.
Interesting. Wasn't her name ever referenced?
At some point, there were a few names that they kind of referenced, which is what kind of was starting to give away clues of what was going on. That maybe
Lucy.
Yeah, Lucy was the main one that I think
He
was
called her
her
Ames that
actual
one time.
name. It was Amy, and the short for Ames. Yeah, there were some. She never really had a name. She was credited as young woman.
Yeah.
But that starts off with her getting into a car with her then boyfriend, who she says she's been seeing for
6 weeks,
between a month and a half. And they're going to meet his parents for the first time out on some farm. Does it ever say where they're at?
There was a license plate near the end of the movie that said Minnesota, I think, on the car.
There's a lot of snow
Minnesota?
involved.
And sometimes they say Oklahoma. That's all part of the fun here.
Yeah. So they're going to this farm to meet his parents, and a lot of weird psychological stuff ensues.
Indeed it does.
I don't even know where to begin. Like I said, I still enjoyed it, especially specific scenes. I thought it was entertaining and even funny at times. It left me. I was talking with Josh before the show today. It wasn't like a horror movie by any means. It wasn't a scary movie, but it kind of put your gut in that same uneasy feeling that a horror movie would kind of give you. It does a really good job of making you feel super uncomfortable pretty much the whole time. What did you think, Kent?
I liked it so much I watched it twice.
Did you?
Whoa!
Are you okay?
Oh, that is awesome. That makes me so happy.
Are you okay over there?
I'm fine.
Okay.
Did you?
This may convince everybody that haven't watched, 10,000 movies and 20 years of bad Husker basketball is rotted my brain.
I guess. Did you watch it a second time because you felt you missed things, or you wanted more clarification?
That was going to be my question.
A, B, and C. I wanted to make. There are some connections you can make through the movie that kind of explain things and kind of give it. I would say about halfway through the first time, I caught on to what he was really up to. And then when I watched it the second time, it became really clear. Okay.
Mhm.
And just let me give you two examples
Okay.
that won't give everything away. When they're driving away from the farm, okay, in the snowstorm.
At the very end?
About halfway through, right?
Right. 2/3 of the way through, yeah.
Right when they start driving and they start talking about that movie, A Woman Under the Influence, okay? And she starts smoking the cigarette and talking. That is actually a Pauline Kael review of that movie that she's quoting verbatim.
That's
if
hilarious.
you noticed in his bedroom, there was a book of Pauline Kael reviews. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing held true with various other elements. Like I say, don't want to give everything away and all the clues. There were 3 or 4 things like that. I can also say that the Nobel Prize speech from A Beautiful Mind figures into the movie as well. If you watch the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, you'll see it. Okay? It's that kind of thing where all these influences and stuff get drawn in. Now, to get directly to the enigma of what is it about, Woman Under the Influence, Jenna Rollins wants to commit suicide, among other things. So is this girl going to kill herself? Is she not? Or does she even exist? Right? Where does this come from? And this is a Charlie Kaufman movie. So you know this is going on in somebody's mind. You just don't, it's just not clear who. Okay? And one other clue. Surrealist pictures like this, like David Lynch has think Twin Peaks, for example. There are characters that pop up that seem to be really weird and don't have anything to do with the story, and they mean something. Pay attention to the janitor, pay attention to the first scene in the movie. And it can start to tie together.
And then there was another random couple that she had at some point turned into in the car. Do you remember that?
Well, wasn't that the woman that was on the movie that the old guy was watching?
Yes.
That randomly was like directed by Robert Zemeckis.
Yes.
Which apparently
right.
I heard that Kaufman got permission, like they put that in there as a placeholder or something, and he got permission from him supposedly to use it. Yeah,
that's funny.
I'm sure he had to.
Yeah.
But see, and if you start putting these together, then it becomes I agree with the idea. This was almost a psychological horror movie, but it's also funny. And I think what was it about? That's what everybody wants. What was it about? Well, what was it about? Is it about loneliness? It's about connection. It's about what's going on in whoever's mind this is, whoever this narrator is. Why are we going through all of this? He obviously messes with time with her parents, right? And that tells you there that you're viewing this from some point of view that isn't a narrative time point of view.
Yeah.
And once you begin to understand that, you can start putting these pieces together in different ways. And this is a Charlie Kaufman movie, and so it's going to be dark, and it's going to be kind of funny, and it's going to be very interior and very and the other thing that on a more formal basis, I guess you would say, the acting was superb.
The acting was great.
Really good.
Jessie Buckley is the who played the young woman. She's brilliant. Okay, she was in a really good indie movie called Wild Rose, where she's from Ireland and she played an Irish woman that wants to become a country singer. It's a really good little movie if you can see that. But she was also in that Chernobyl, the miniseries that was HBO? Was that HBO series?
Yeah.
And also, she was the best thing I thought about the Judy Garland biopic last year, even though Renee Zellweger won the Oscar for it. So she was very good. Jesse Plemons, weird that they both have the same first name, I thought, has been very good in everything that he does as well. And this one, he kind of plays a very similar character to a lot of things that he's done before. And then you take the two parents who are great. David Thewlis, who plays the dad, has also done a lot of work with Charlie Kaufman in the past, which is important. And Toni Collette is brilliant every time she's on screen. People probably most remember her from the mom in Sixth Sense, which...
Yep. And Hereditary.
I was thinking she reminded me a lot of her character in Hereditary in like a strange way.
She was my probably favorite part of the movie. Any scene she was in, especially like that long dinner scene at the beginning. She was phenomenal. She was insane. Her laugh. Like I said about how uneasy, she was amazing at making you feel so uncomfortable.
Awkward and uncomfortable, but it was kind of funny.
It was, yeah.
Right? You're watching this really awkward thing, but it's also kind of funny.
Yeah. You know? Her banter with the husband was phenomenal. They were just so quirky. All right, John.
You know what I think? These fever dream films just aren't for me. I will say this, the most entertaining part was the dinner scene.
Yes.
Yep.
Which was probably...
it was like 25 minutes long.
At least.
Yeah.
It's about a half hour in and it lasts a while.
Yeah. Because of the interaction between the mom and the dad. And of course, it's being a typical mom, talking about all the embarrassing things that the son has done all these years. And so that was good. But yeah, these fever dream films, they just lose me.
See,
they completely lose me. But I will say, I at least I had forewarning this was going to be a fever dream film.
So
just by me choosing it.
Well, but you could tell that you were in just how weird things got. You could tell that you were in somebody's dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the way Kent, because I'm on this website called Letterboxd, basically just to keep track of the movies that I watch. So I know what I've watched, what I haven't watched. And what I wrote after I watched it was, I wish that it was 15 to 20% more coherent. And I told this to Stibbs earlier because I read the book when it came out a few years ago. My reaction through like the majority of the book was like, wow, this is really interesting. I cannot wait to see how it ends. And I just hated the ending. And the ending is actually much different in the book than it was in the movie. But that I basically have kind of that same criticism of I love the atmosphere of it because it's just so ridiculous and crazy, but it's just like a little too much at times for me.
Still leaves you kind of wanting more resolution at the end a little bit.
Because I think it's fun if you boil it down to like the bare bones of it, of like, man, meeting your significant other's parents for the first time is like not a real fun experience. And you just kind of dread it. And that entire car ride, this basically just extends all of that out for hours on end. But like the drive there is going to be uncomfortable. Yeah. The dinner there is going to be uncomfortable. Like they arrive and he's like, hey, we're home. And like nobody's answering. He's having to wander up and down the stairs. But it's just at times it's just a little too much for me.
And I have a hard time like kind of by the end of the movie, like that. I mean, the premise, I guess, and I still, like I said, still don't even really know what it's about, which is kind of the fun in it to be able to talk about it like this. But it has nothing to do with meeting your significant other's parents. You know what it was like? That was
that's the end.
That was the end to what this is all about and what's going on and whoever this person's mind is. That was what it was, the vehicle to get you into this kind of world. It wasn't necessarily about that at all. It made for, like I agree with John, probably the best scene of the movie, and it made for some interesting tidbits and it'll always. Those scenes, like even in real life, if you go do that, it always does bring light into your significant other's world that maybe you hadn't seen before, when you get to see like maybe the house they grew up in, or how they treat their parents, and how their parents treat them.
Mhm.
So it is a good kind of base for a movie like this, for someone's eyes to open up in that space and kind of learn about each other. But I still don't know how or why it correlates to like the overarching message, I guess you could say, of the film. Hey,
I will give you a clue to that. But before I do so, I think it's also notable. This thing was brilliantly shot. The cinematography in this was evocative. It fit every scene, right? The picture made the mood sort of it away. And it is intentionally obtuse, right? It's going to make you work to figure it out. And here's a clue. When she went downstairs to put the nightgown in the wash machine, what did she pull out?
The uniform of the janitor.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And also, we're not reviewing necessarily like we would with you, Kent, before. So if you're someone who wants to watch this and you haven't, here is an actual spoiler alert, because I do want to get Kent's like actual thoughts on what it does mean. That, and when she actually meets him in the high school and he tries to give her the slippers again, and she says, "No, those are yours," is what really got me to be like, okay, I have the vaguest of understanding of what's happening here right now. I understood who that was at that moment, but there's still, like you said, the intentional obtusity, if that's a word, of the entire thing still leaves so many questions as to why are there people dancing like a ballet in the hallways, and why is this man naked? Why is there an animated pig walking around? Like, all means something, I'm sure, but it's so out there that I do want to get what you think the basis of the story is supposed to leave the viewer with.
What I think?
Yes.
Okay, two things. One, this thing is so symbolism loaded, right? Remember they discovered dead lambs.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's some serious symbolism going right there, okay? So it's working at a level, I guess it seemed to me it works on about 3 levels. The one is the deliberate confusion that it's not supposed to be easy to figure out and linear and all of that. It's supposed to be a feel, a take, a mood, and it's this idea, I suppose, on that level about how do we connect with other people? Do we really connect with people? Do you actually know the person you're connecting with, or are you isolated, right? So there's that. It's also going on in someone's head, right? It's clearly not told from a distant point of view. This is come from an interior point of view, in my view. And I think it's the janitor.
Yeah, I do too.
I think this is all going on in his head, and the time flipping is what makes that important. Because if you can flip back and forth in time, and if you notice the automobile they were driving was like a nondescript early 90s, late 80s kind of car, right?
Yes.
And you never saw anything in the movie that established a specific time period, ever. Other than a Pauline Kael movie review of a movie that came out in the mid 1960s. So that gives you plenty of room to work with, and the Beautiful Mind speech. But beyond that, it's not a dated thing.
To be able to see and know what his parents are going to look like at a certain age, the older ones, like 70 plus, would insinuate that he does know what they look like at that age. So you must be later on in the person's life in order to picture them at that moment in their life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Man,
so that's what I think it is. I think it's this mind of this janitor recalling something that may or may not have happened to him.
Yeah.
Do you
think he died?
It may or may not have.
Do you think he died? Is that?
No.
Do you think that's what that whole walking naked through the hearing pigs type thing is?
Was there a guy with a members only jacket in a cafe?
Hey, spoiler alert.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Well, sorry, Stibbs. Spoiler alert. All right, so there it is.
Got myself a gun.
Yeah. So Ken, are you gonna review this for the paper?
I will probably write a column about it next week. Yeah.
All right.
Nice. I'm gonna read it.
See, the movie club is coming up with content for the newspaper.
You're welcome.
As well.
There we go.
Josh?
I thought it's your turn. I did last week.
Yeah, but we skipped around. I think it was you again.
Oh, I thought that it was going to be you.
I don't know.
I can find something real fast on Netflix. My bad. I guess
it's funny. No, you're good, Josh. It's funny when I was talking to Josh about this one that we just watched. I told him that like I said, I still liked it, even though I was confused, and it was way weirder than I even expected, which is saying something. After talking with Kent, I told him it's not something I'd watch again. After talking with you, Kent, now I want to watch it again.
There you go.
And I agreed with you when you mentioned the cinematography. That's not something I really notice until like after the movie when I think back on it. But when it was so stark like this, and there were times in the movie where a scene would switch, and I'd immediately think to myself, like, damn, that is beautiful.
Okay, I got one. And Stibbs has recommended this to me many times.
Oh, God, not another one.
Sorry, John. And
I'll take the turn. This week we're going to watch Cannonball Run.
I have wanted to watch this. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. I actually think that, John, you're going to like this. I will pick The Disaster Artist, a movie that's, Stibbs has wanted me to watch for a few years now.
Should we watch The Room first?
No, we're going to watch The Disaster Artist. We're not going to watch The Room. This is a movie about a movie that is considered like the worst movie of all time. Okay. James Franco is the main star. Who else is in
his brother?
I think
Dave.
I remember this. No, I haven't seen it, but okay. I think I remember.
It's an entertaining picture. Is that on Netflix?
It's on Netflix. Yep, I will tweet out a link
because it's been a few years since I've seen it.
Same. I only saw it once.
Only an hour 43, a little shorter than I'm thinking of ending things, and hopefully John doesn't hate it as much.
I didn't hate.
It's not a fever dream.
I didn't hate this.
Just not your cup of tea.
I just loathed it. All right, Kent. Well, we're going to have a game one tonight in the West, and Boston's already down in the hole.
Ken, I like Lakers
4-1 Miami Heat.
That's right. You picked them.
I said I like the Lakers to win this series in 5.
I agree.
All right.
I agree.
Go Nugs.
Nugs.
I just don't think that Denver can. They're lucky to be alive at this point, having come back the way they have.
How dare you?
Can't get behind the Lakers and do that. And you start going down the matchups, and I'll take LeBron and Anthony Davis over, Jamal Murray and Jokic. I think it'll be a good series, but I think the Lakers win in 5. I think. Right.
I have some breaking news that the team movie this week for the Lakers is I'm thinking of ending things. So
they're going to be sad and confused.
Yeah. And that's when Jokic does his best work. All right, Kent, we'll have a great weekend, and we're going to have football in a month.
Woohoo! Although nobody in the stand, and I assume that means nobody in the press box as well.
Or either that, or they're going to make us all sit outside,
that would be awesome.
20 seconds.
Fine, media. You want to come to the game? You have to sit outside in a blizzard.
You each get your own section.
Yeah,
you can sit on the roof.
Yeah, which means Babcock will be throwing us all of these little candies that he brings us every week. There you go, across the stadium. Kent, have a great weekend. Thank you.
You do the same. See you guys.
There he is. Kent Wolgamott of the Lincoln Journal-Star.
Watched it again, and he's not kidding. He doesn't rewatch movies because all he does is watch movies. So why would he do it again? Wow, man, he loved it. You could see it. I rarely see Kent just like that.
That made me so happy.
It was fun because normally it's in the old days we just reviewed stuff. Yeah. He's like diving in.
I joke about my favorite part of this new segment is just trying to make John as uncomfortable as possible. This did both. Honestly, my favorite thing is getting Kent to watch something that maybe he wouldn't have watched and then end up loving it. Like this was my dream. Yeah. This was like Ken, have you heard of this? Check it out. And then he watched it twice and fell in love.
Yeah, pretty cool. And now he's going to write a column. Maybe we'll get credit for the
I
column.
wonder if he'll give us actual credit or if it'll be Sipple credit, where it's just like some man on a radio said this.
Might Kent give us credit in his column?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Kent, don't forget who picked the movie. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, don't forget who picked the movie. I don't want any part of the credit for
Keep
this.
John's name out of it.
In fact, if you want to go ahead and say you were recommended this movie by 590, you just go right ahead.
Kent is still in the stream, just not seen, and I can see him laughing at the bottom of the screen this whole time.
All right. It's a One Beer Friday.
Oh, yeah, it is.
It's a One Beer Friday, and we should remind you that next week we're going to be at Omaha Roncalli, the best concession stand in Nebraska for our third year ahead of, let's see, I can't remember who they were playing.
Well, last year it was Bennington, right?
Yeah.
I don't remember who it was in the first year.
Either way, we're going to be there next Friday for the program, which means we're going to have a lot of food and probably some other things as well that,
Awesome.
Beverages, of course.
I love that Kent was still hanging out in the street. That's great.
Just watching him throw his head back and laugh.
All right, we're going to take a break. Be back in a minute. 16:20 The Zone.